suppose.
2:00.
Well, welcome to councillors and staff, and I declare this meeting open at 2 p.m, I think.
Yep.
And I acknowledge country. The Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Our councillors present today are Councillor Robinson, Councillor Churchill, Councillor Arnold, Deputy Mayor Jenny Woods, myself, Robert Young, and the apologies are all the rest. Michael Simons, Annie Brown, Councillor Michael Simons, Councillor Annie Browning, and Councillor Keith Browning. Any late reports? None. Are there any declarations of interest or conflict? I'd like the members to state whether they have any interest personally or via a close associate. And I can read the definition out if you want. Or any conflict as described in the Council's Code of Conduct for councillors in respect of any item in the agenda. None? The next item 2 is confirmation of minutes. Can I have a motion? Councillor Robinson.
That the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held Tuesday 24th November 2020 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Churchill. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Item 2.2 is date and purpose of workshops held. There is a note about that. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Yes.
I'll move that council notes this information.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Woods. Is there a seconder? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to speak?
No, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Now, item 3, public question time. Public question time gives any member of the public an opportunity to freely ask a question on any council matter. What questions are there, General Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received several questions without notice in accordance with 3.1. Some of them were received literally right up until 12 p.m. or 12 noon, yesterday. So there hasn't been time to answer them in full, but they will be answered and recorded and included in the January 2021 Ordinary Council meeting agenda. So I'll start with the questions in the order that they were received. The first question is from Mrs. Angela Turvey, and it reads, some months ago all residents and ratepayers of Buckland were given the opportunity to respond to a community survey regarding the walking track at Buckland, which has commenced but now left unfinished for several months. In essence, residents and ratepayers of Buckland were asked if they would like the track to be completed or the area rehabilitated. Could you please let us know what the outcome was of this community survey? I was very grateful to be given the opportunity to have my say along with many others I have spoken to, and sincerely thank Council for that opportunity. I responded to the specific question about the outcome of the survey. So 104 community survey forms were distributed in the Buckland community. 66 responses were returned. 44 of those responses were in favour of completing the walking track that had started, and 22 were against the track being completed. They were wanting the site to be rehabilitated. And I note that Council will note that there is a report on the agenda later in regards to the Buckland Trail.
Thank you.
The second question was from Hodgson. Two parts to it. The first part is, how long will council allow business to discharge liquid industrial waste onto public land, being a street in Trabana? We first mentioned this to council in 2006. The second part of the question is, who is responsible for the remediation of the contamination of public land? My response to that is an investigation will be conducted and a response provided in due course. This is just for council's information, this is a long-standing issue, and the response will be forwarded to Hodgson, but obviously also included in the January 2021 agenda. The third person or group submitting a question was from the Freycinet Association Incorporated. And the question simply reads, what is the council's plan for the NRM? I may, before I respond to this, I may, if council agrees, contact the association and ask whether they are talking specifically about the NRM committee or the NRM group within the organisation, or both, and then I'll respond to that question. The next one is from Mr. Andrew Menzies. Please provide the cost to date of the statement of expectation process, and in particular the cost of consultants engaged in this process. If the committee is to continue in its current form or a revised format, please advise what the ongoing costs would be. Please also advise if the consultants are engaged in other advisory roles within council, what these roles are and the costs associated. So I will respond to that, and I will respond following council's discussion today in regards to the revised Statement of Expectations Committee. The next question is from Mrs. Jane Wing. At a recent Natural Resource Management Committee meeting, the General Manager advised the committee that council needed to recruit permanent staff in the areas of human resources, risk management, occupational health and safety and accounting, and that the financial implications of these appointments was in part the reason for disbanding the Natural Resources Management Department of Council. As these functions, human resources, risk management, occupational health and safety and accounting, have for some time been provided to council by contractors, could the General Manager provide the community with the combined cost of contracting out these functions during the 1920 financial year and the first half of the 2021 financial year? Would it be correct to assume that the savings made from not engaging contractors would go a long way to paying for permanent staff to fill these positions? So I'm happy to respond to that question, and will do so in due course. I'm mindful of, in responding to the question, that there's certain things that I would not be able to disclose. And Mrs. Jane Wing submitted a second question. Please provide the community with a combined costing for all the acting general managers this council has engaged since January 2019 until the current general managers, that should read, appointment. I will respond to that as well. I have received a similar question previously. Again, I can talk in holistic numbers, and I'm prepared to provide those, but I cannot provide numbers for individual persons that were acting as a general manager in the actual general manager role. And that's it for the questions without notice.
There at 3.2, it's a question on notice. Now, I'm not sure how, do I read this question out, or do we just take it as being read, seeing that it's on the agenda?
We just take it as being read.
We take it as being read. And I note that General Manager will provide written response to that question and the other question on that page. Item 4, Planning Authority section. There are no reports.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, before you go on, I'd just like to take the opportunity while we are going back to questions on notice, while we're on the topics that have been raised by Mr Johnson and Coles Bay, just to inform Council that I am meeting with the Freycinet Association Incorporated in January. I've made a commitment to do so, and it basically, just for your information, that I'll report back to Council as to what comes out of that meeting.
Thank you,
It's
General Manager.
by way of introduction, and also to hear what no doubt Council has heard before, but I'd like to hear it myself.
Thank you. The Planning Authority section, there are no reports. Item 5, Financial Reports. Can I have a motion? Yes. Deputy Mayor.
I move that council receives and notes the financial reports as attached in this report for the period ending 30th of November 2020.
Can I have a second? Thank you. Councillor Churchill. Is there any discussion?
Through
Yes.
you, Mayor, I just have one query there under other income, and I've asked this question at the last 2 ordinary council meetings. The Prosser Plains Rural Water Scheme reimbursement of principal loan, year-to-date 0, budget 0. At our last ordinary meeting, I asked the same question, and it was indicated to me that some money had been paid. Just so I guess it's a question to the General Manager as to what's happened since.
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yes, General Manager.
Yes, I do recall that question being asked, and I think that line in the profit and loss statement needs updating. So that'll be my response in that regard, and I'm happy to send that out to Council separately, but also ensure that the next profit and loss statement reflects that.
So just through you again, Mayor, does that indicate that there has been some money paid then?
I am informed there has been, yes, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you.
I ask a question about the motion. Does that mean that the mover and seconder of the motion want to qualify their motion in any way, or just accept it as is, as put?
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yes, General Manager.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, just want to make a comment on, and I know this came up at the last meeting. There was a question around employee costs, and on page 11, you'll see the employee costs under the operating expenses, and $135,451 variance. That does change with the changes that are happening within the organisation, so both with redundancies and staff moving on, and the engagement of new staff. So from month to month at the current time, that figure, if you compared it to last month and you compare it to January, you will see that fluctuate a fair bit, but that's for that reason.
Are there any other questions about the financial reports? Yes, Councillor
If I
Churchill.
may, Mayor. Just a really minor thing, just on that same page, under total comprehensive result, including capital income, that should read capital grants. I hate to be pedantic, but it should be grants there. I think.
Which line's that?
It's the one immediately above the Capital Works Program current year WIP, the next line up. It says total comprehensive result including capital income. It should be including capital grants.
Oh, I see. It's second section at the bottom.
It just indicates that the grants are brought into that part as opposed to being separate in the other part of the financials. So just for clarity. And that's all I have.
Any other discussion? All those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried unanimously. On page 18, item 6, section 24, committees. Do I have a motion? Councillor Churchill.
I move that the minutes of the Section 24 Statement of Expectations Special Committee meeting, 16th of November 2020, be received and noted.
Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Woods. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Churchill?
No, not at this stage. We've had a fair bit of discussion about Section 24 committees, and there's another item on the agenda there to speak about later. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes.
Not necessarily a discussion, but if I may make a comment.
Yes, please.
I'd like to acknowledge the past committee of the Coles Bay Community Hall and thank them for their commitment to the Coles Bay community, and I'd like to also wish the this Coles Bay Community Hall Committee all the best going forward and acknowledge the informative meeting minutes that are presented in this agenda.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
Councillor
just a wee bit confused, Mr Mayor. We were talking about the statement of expectation minutes.
Oh, I thought we were talking about both.
No.
I think only the statement of expectation minutes.
No, that's right, page 18 and 19.
Oh, my apologies.
That's right.
Yes, oops.
Well, you can say that again later if you wish.
No, I won't. I don't need to,
Well,
been
sometimes
said.
people like to be praised twice.
yeah, my apologies.
No, nothing to be to apologise for. I'm going to put the matter. All those in favour? Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Now, item 6.2, Coles Bay Community Hall Committee. Do I have a motion? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that the minutes of the Section 24 Coles Bay Community Hall Committee meeting, the 10th of November 2020, be received and noted.
Deputy Mayor, do you wish to second? Oh,
Councillor Churchill.
oh, Councillor Churchill, all right. I just thought I'd give you another opportunity.
No, no,
Councillor Churchill, please.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Arnold?
No, not necessarily, Mayor, but I will endorse Deputy Mayor's words that she said previously.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone else wish to say anything?
Yes,
please.
I am on
Councillor
this.
Churchill.
I am on this committee, and it really does seem to be functioning very well. And it's really nice to see this up and going again, and that things are being considered there. And I do know that they are anxious to try to get those tennis courts up and functional when those repairs can possibly be done. So just to bring that to the attention of the General Manager through the Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Churchill. Any further discussion? I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare carried unanimously. Our next item is item 7, officers' reports requiring a decision. Now, do I have a motion? Councillor Robinson.
That council adopt the asset management plan, buildings, and recognise this as a key document in achieving sustainable management of council's assets. Once adopted, the plan will be published on council's website.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Churchill. Now, is there any discussion? I note that our responsible officer, Mr Butler, is unable to be here today. So is there any discussion?
Just that
Yes.
through you, Mayor, I'd
Councillor
just like
Robertson.
to say it's, I wasn't at the workshop, but it's great to see this asset management plan finally in place. It's been something that's been overdue and should be readily accepted, not only by us, but hopefully by the Director of Local Government.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to say something? Yes, councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it would behove council to actually acknowledge the work that's been done, particularly by Mr Butler, in relation to this, to get us to this point in both this one and the next plan as well. So I believe he's done an enormous amount of work to get us to this point.
Well, I'd endorse that, even though I may not have a right to speak. Does anyone else wish to say anything?
Just through
Yes,
you, Mayor,
yes,
just
please.
to endorse what Councillor Arnold has just said. I think he's done a fantastic job
Thank you,
in a
councillor
reasonably
Robertson.
short period of time.
Yes, and it wouldn't have been easy, I don't think. I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Now, item 7.2, Asset Management Plan Road Infrastructure. The responsible officer, Mr Butler, is not here, but do I have a motion? Councillor Churchill.
I move that council adopt the Asset Management Plan, Road Infrastructure, and recognise this as a key document in achieving sustainable management of council's assets. Once adopted, the plan will be published on council's website.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Robinson. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No? Yes, Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, I just want to endorse everything that other councillors have said, but we've got to remember that this is totally in line with our PID, and it's great to see so much
For
process.
the members of the public, PID,
Is the Performance Improvement Direction
from whom?
from the Director of Local Government.
Thank you.
It's good to see that we're completing these requirements and moving forward, and I believe really quite rapidly in view of the amount of work that has been done and the amount that needs to be done. So, you know, I personally would like to congratulate the General Manager and his staff on achieving what's been done so far, and it's helped to really give me confidence that we're going to meet those requirements of the Performance Improvement Direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to say anything? Yes.
Sorry,
Councillor Robinson.
before the General Manager, just briefly, that endorsing those comments from Councillor Churchill, but also just adding that it will give us in the long term an opportunity to prioritise a lot of our works in relation to our assets and infrastructure. So work will be, I guess, undertaken, and the General Manager will probably elaborate on that in line with our plans that we've now identified.
General Manager.
Yep. Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you for that, and certainly I'm very pleased that Mr Butler has got that recognition, because he has done a sterling job, and bear in mind there's still 3 more asset management plans that will be put before council early in the new year. This particular one though, I just want to comment on, because as council is aware, we're talking about almost $100 million asset here, and the budget implications little paragraph there reads, there are no immediate budget implications associated with adopting the plan. That's fine. However, there are future budget decisions to be made relating to levels of service provision, etc., etc. It's important that council is aware that out of this plan is going to come a renewal program, and with dollars attached to it, and it's certainly going to be able to inform our budgets going forward, but as Councillor Robinson correctly pointed out, our decision making as well as to where we prioritise and where we do work first. But I guess the point I'm getting to is that there's a significant amount of work to be done on our road network, and a lot of it is a backlog of works, particularly with our sealed roads. And you don't have to drive too far around our municipality to observe what I'm talking about in terms of some of the road conditions. So I'm very pleased that we got to this point, like you. This is our biggest asset, council's biggest fixed asset by a long way, and the most important of those 5 plans. So I'm pleased we got to this point, but I'm also highlighting that without spoiling the party too much, that there's a lot of work ahead.
You know, it'll still cost. Is that some of it? Any further discussion or comment? Well, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item 7.3 is renewal of Glamorgan Spring Bay Council audit panel agreements. Do I have a motion? Yes, Deputy Mayor Woods.
So I'll move that Councillor appoints Mr Derbyshire to continue as Chair of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council Audit Panel for a period of 3 years effective from 1st of January 2021, and B, that Council agrees to a remuneration rate of $1,110 for the Chair for each audit panel meeting chaired, and C, that Council agrees to a remuneration rate of $495 for each meeting attended by the independent member.
Councillor Robinson seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Yes.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge that Mr Derbyshire has been on this audit panel for quite a number of years, and also acknowledge the work that he's done for this council in regards to it. And also I'd like to welcome aboard the new independent member for the committee, and look forward to their work in 2021.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Just ask the General Manager if a letter of thanks was sent to Mr Kane Ingram for his work. I remember, you might recall, I asked during the last council meeting for his work on our audit panel to be acknowledged by letter.
It's Ingham, not Ingram, I believe, Councillor. Was a letter sent, do you know? Yeah, Heather's the new member.
Perhaps you might just follow it up, General Manager, for us.
Okay, so Kane Ingham is the member that she is replacing. Okay, we'll see if it's
Ms Murray, as the Executive Officer, could you make a note that that request has been made so it's not missed for the next meeting? Councillor Churchill.
If I may speak, I just wanted to make it quite clear that while Mr Derbyshire has now served 6 years on the audit panel, and we're accepting through this motion that he may do another 3 years, that'll make a total of 9 years. There are some would argue that this is not necessarily good governance, that the members of the audit panel, probably including councillors as well, should do probably no more than 3 to 4 years normally. So just like to bear that in mind, but I would have to certainly agree with other people that have commented that I think Mr Derbyshire is doing a really good job, and I'm happy for him to continue in this role. I just think there needs to be that awareness that we do recognise that governance perhaps should be kept in mind in future once we move beyond that period.
Councillor Churchill, thank you very much. All those in favour of the motion? Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Now, item 7.4, Buckland Walking Trail. There are a few pages on the agenda relating to this, which I don't propose to go into.
and attachment.
And there's attachments, as the General Manager quite rightly pointed out to me. Is there a motion? Well, Councillor Woods, do you have a motion?
Yep. I'll move that Council agrees to proceed with and complete stage 1 of the Buckland Walking Trail, and B, that any future walking trails of Buckland or elsewhere in the Glamorgan Spring Bay municipality are considered in the context of the precinct plan or overall municipal strategic plan.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Arnold, second. Now, Deputy Mayor Woods, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would, if I may, Mr Mayor.
Please do.
I note that on page 33, with the officer's comments, submissions to the questionnaire closed on the October 2020, and 66 replies were received in total. Of the received replies, 44 were in favour of the walk project proceeding and 22 were against. This is what I'm basing my support for on this, not only just this, but on this issue at Buckland. It has been rather contentious, and I acknowledge that. However, I feel that my personal opinion is that I feel that it needs to proceed and just basically get on with it. Thank you.
Anyone want to speak to the motion? Well, I note Councillor Arnold raised her hand then.
Councillor Churchill can speak.
Okay, Councillor Churchill, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, there's many issues here at many levels, and I think there's a lot of things to be considered. And I just want to touch on some of those that I consider the most important of those issues. There are plenty of issues that I won't be necessarily discussing here. However, I just want to point out that this has not been the smoothest of projects, and that's acknowledged and referred to in the supporting documents. Council has not followed due process and has not followed its own policies. Prior to the commencement, there was no planning approval given for work to begin within this riparian zone, and there was no detailed engineering drawings to work on. There was very limited community consultation, and if we give this project the go-ahead, we are effectively giving retrospective approval to a flawed project, which was clearly dividing this small community. This does not send a clear and consistent message to developers right across our local government area. As a council, we must set the protocols and policies and abide by the planning rules as we would expect of any developer. Should this motion not pass, I would like to foreshadow a motion, if I may, Mayor.
You may foreshadow a motion, Councillor Churchill.
And my foreshadowing motion is I would move that the Buckland walking trail be repaired to as near as practicable to its former state before the works commenced in 2020, and that it is revegetated with appropriate native species.
Do you have a copy of that foreshadowed motion you could give? Ms. Murray, thank you. Councillor Robinson, you wish to say something?
Yes, through you, Mayor. And I think everyone around the table agree it's an issue that's caused great angst in the Buckland community, and I think it needs to be resolved. The community have been wondering about this, for most of the year and probably prior to that. Our General Manager's report correctly identified the initial problems that councillors raised in the May meeting this year. There were 7 of those: lack of community consultation, insufficient planning, permits have been sought, lack of engineering design, lack of consultation and approval from council, the current cutting into the bank's a safety risk, the site is at risk of erosion, the site is at risk of flooding, there was no direct Aboriginal heritage consultation, so there were lots of issues right from the start. And a lot of those still exist. And given our positive progress with the performance improvement directions that we're making and other council operational structures that we're changing, I feel that we'd be sending the wrong message to all of our communities, not just the Buckland community, if we approve the completion of this track, given its history. We've got we've got two lots of expert advice, one from Lang Landscape Architects and another one from our engineer consultant Harry Gallier. The Lang report basically said the track completion should be reconsidered on a cost versus reinstatement basis, and they were very concerned about the whole track being in a riverbed, and they admitted that that's always challenging, but even if it was concrete, that can sometimes be washed away. Harry Gallier, our engineering advice, qualified advice, identified additional costs that weren't investigated as part of his report, and I've referred to some of those already. He also said it was a poor initial design, and he also indicated that if we were to rehabilitate it, that excavated section would only need revegetating. So even if we looked at the $50,000 that the Lang landscape architects indicated $50,000 to rehabilitate, $20,000 of that was to restore that excavated section, but our engineer is saying that's not necessary. So that would take $20,000 off that estimate that's been made here. From the GM's report, it was a very good summary, I thought, of the process from start to now. Our general manager met with residents who were opposed to the track on the 1st of December. I just have one query there about the ongoing maintenance costs. The Lang Landscape Architects indicated a range of between $5,000 and $20,000 on an annual basis, and even if we take that lower end of $5,000, our general manager's report says it will probably only cost $1,000 a year. Now, we've had 4 flooding events this year there, where the lower section of the track has been underwater, and I think given the current climate conditions, we're going to see more of that. It was indicated in the General Manager's report that it's like a national park track. I think it's quite different to many national park tracks in that it's not in a river. It's actually, most of our national park walks are not in riverbeds. So I think that's another issue I have there. So basically I would not be supporting the current motion.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to speak in favour of completing stage 1 as it does fit with strategic direction 2 in supporting the health and wellbeing of the community. I do acknowledge that this project may have been very poorly handled from the outset, but is that any reason not to proceed with stage 1? The decision has to be based on sound advice, and I believe we have that in this report. The engineering advice has been provided by a former acting general manager. The council had complete faith in his engineering credentials during his short tenure. His comments include, there does not appear any major engineering hurdle that would justify abandonment of the project. And from purely an engineering objective, the project is certainly salvageable. To do anything less than follow his advice now would be an insult to this person's engineering credentials. In relation to part 2 of the motion, there are 3 town structure plans, Tribunna Orford, Swansea Coles Bay and Bicheno, that I assume is what is referred to as a precinct plan. Within those plans, which are probably due for review, like many of our other plans, there is reference to enhancing walking and cycling opportunities. In the Tribunna Orford one, there is 15 references to walking. In Swansea Coles Bay, there is 13, and in Bicheno, it escalates to 25. I think it's very clear that our communities, including Buckland, are looking for walking trails and cycling from that. And on that basis, I will vote to complete stage 1.
Would you like to give that
Doesn't need to,
written comment to our minute secretary,
It-
Ms Murray? So
Mr Mayor, it's not recorded in the minutes as verbatim, so it's not necessary.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes, please.
If I may, Mr Mayor, I'll close.
Yes.
And I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Churchill and Councillor Robinson's comments and acknowledge also that I take on board what you've both said. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Arnold's comments, and I would also just like to acknowledge former Acting General Manager Harry Galea's report that we've had for some time. Again, I've said many times, this has been a very contentious issue for the community of Buckland. One way or another, no, we can't make everyone happy all the time. That's an absolute given. But given the fact that so many, there was over 100 survey questionnaires sent out, and 60, sorry, I'll find that again.
66.
And 66 replies, and 44 are in favour, so that suggests well and truly over half of the people would like to see this walking track. And I can honestly, the way I think about it, I think that it'd be remiss of us not to not give the people of Buckland a walking trail. I mean, there's a proper word, I can't quite
You've
remember
said
it.
it, that's adequate.
That, you know, the walking trail, finish it off stage one at least, and make it a nice place for the people of Buckland and visitors to enjoy. So I will be in support of the motion that I've put, and I urge other councillors to support it as well for the people of Buckland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
No, they can't because I've closed.
Yes, of course. Then, thank you. All those in favour, please raise their hand. All those against? There are 2 for and 2 against, and I'm neutral on the matter, which I think it counts to again and against. I declare the motion lost. The 2 councillors for the motion were Councillor Arnold and Councillor Deputy Mayor Woods. Those against were Councillor Robinson and Councillor Churchill, with the Mayor through the abstention amounts to an against. Now there is a foreshadowed.
Mr Mayor,
Yes,
if I
please.
may, Ms Murray, you need to record that the Mayor abstained. So it's, there's a 4, which is the 2 councillors you have. Against is Councillor Robinson and Councillor Churchill. Abstention will be Mayor Robert Young. And an abstention is effectively a no vote, so that's why the motion is lost. ABST. Abstention, ABST, that's it, I think.
The motion is lost. So now the question of the foreshadowed motion. Could we,
Which we have received from Councillor Churchill. Is it?
Councillor Churchill moved that the Buckland walking trail be repaired to as near as practicable to the former state before the works commenced in 2020, and that it is revegetated with the appropriate native species. Do you wish, I'm sorry.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, can I just suggest, Councillor Churchill, that we make sure, and I'm sure this is your intent, that we're not talking about repairing the trail, we're talking about rehabilitating the site.
Correct.
So perhaps that wording could read that the Buckland walking trail is rehabilitated to
Yes.
as near as, yeah.
Yes, sorry, that is,
Okay.
yes, I take that point,
Yep.
very happy with that.
Yeah.
So it now reads that the Buckland walking trail is rehabilitated to as near as practicable to its former state before the works commenced in 2020, and that it is revegetated with the appropriate native species. Does anyone wish to speak?
You'll need a seconder.
I'm sorry, yes, Councillor Robinson. Seconded. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak anymore?
Yes, I just want to make just really one point that I think is very important. I think I've said everything that I want to say specifically about the walking trail, but I just wanted to make the point from the General Manager's point of view that this is all something that that was in place before our current General Manager came into his role, and I believe that he's undertaken his work very appropriately, and that I would just like the community to understand that it couldn't have been handled any better from his point of view. Thank you.
Do you mean to say that coming into the job, he was saddled with this problem?
Effectively, yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say I've done a little bit of research, like we probably all have with this, and the estimate from the qualified advice to continue with the construction of the track was around $80,000, and additional to that would be any costs associated with approvals, consultations, and any direct Aboriginal heritage investigations, plus the ongoing maintenance, as the General Manager indicated, which I personally think would be more than $1,000 per annum. The $1,000 per annum wasn't part of the qualified advice anyway. But if we revegetate, as per what Harry Galea said, he said that you wouldn't need to refill that excavated bank, you could revegetate it. That would take $20,000 away from the estimate from Lang Landscape Architects, which would bring that cost down, even if you went ahead with all the other things they suggested, to $30,000. And if you include the $10,000 grant, if we had to give that back, that would add up to about $72,000 plus no maintenance. So if we did it as Harry Galea suggested, in view of rehabilitating the area, it's actually going to be a lower cost to council. So that was part of my thinking, as well as all the angst that's been caused in the community. I don't think there's any question that the actual questionnaire that was sent out, that was fraught. It was more like a poll. It was yes or no. I know of at least 6 people that didn't receive a survey. I've spoken to a lot of people down there. 4 didn't return theirs because it didn't have a date on it, and 2 were just unhappy with the whole thing, so they didn't return theirs. And some people didn't want to return theirs because it was based on rates notices, and one person got 3 because they had 3 properties. So I think that process, which wasn't a questionnaire or a survey in my view, was fraught. But if we look at it purely on a cost basis, I think it would be cheaper to actually rehabilitate the area than to keep going with the track, apart from all the other things I mentioned.
Can I make a comment about the wording of the motion? It says rehabilitated to as near as practicable to its former state. That seems to me that it requires a filling in. If you use common sense in looking at it, comparing, if you say a photograph before and a photograph after. That's the only comment I've got to make about it. The General Manager wants us to say something.
No, well, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is fair comment in regards to the rehabilitation. You're never going to get the site back 100% to what it was before. That's the reality. And I agree with Councillor Robinson's comment that, and the previous qualified advice, that a lot of the rehabilitation can and will be done with, it's appropriate that it's done with native vegetation, which will stabilise the site. There is a risk, there is a risk that I need to highlight, and that is the rehabilitation and the establishment of vegetation and the time it takes for it to become established. If there was a significant weather event over that period, there could become severe erosion there, which wouldn't occur necessarily if the engineering component was done for the track, i.e. Appropriate drainage and gabion baskets, which is the intent. Which is what would need to happen if we were going to complete stage 1. So it's just that point. So there is that ongoing risk of erosion at the site whilst we try to rehabilitate it. The other point is just in regards to your comment, Councillor Robinson, about the comparing the costs. I think we just got to be mindful. So that cost comparison that you did is as valid as I think it can be in terms of the information that we have. And it's quite close, but you also got to take into account the intangible cost, if you like, of not having an asset, the walk-in asset that aligns with our strategic plan and our fit and healthy community. So I just want to make that point as well. But if this is the decision, then obviously we have the capacity in-house to ensure that we plant the appropriate species. We're quite fortunate in that regard, and that we do the rehabilitation as best that we can.
Any further discussion? Councillor Arnold.
A question to the General Manager, please. Does this mean that the grant money that was received for this will need to be returned?
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
General Manager.
I'm not quite sure about that. There is, it may well have to be returned. It's a sum of $10,000. It may well have to be returned, but bear in mind that at the time that money became available, I don't believe there was any specific project that was identified for it. This all happened, as quite rightly has been pointed out around this table already, quickly and without enough thought, unfortunately. So I don't know whether that would have to be returned or not, but if it did have to be returned, yes, that would have to be factored in as well.
And General Manager, a question I'd like to ask, you may not be able to answer it now, but if this motion was not passed, does that mean the grant would or would not have to be returned, or do you not have a view about that?
I think that's, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is the question that Councillor
It's
Arnold
not quite the
asked.
same, I don't think, is it? I might be wrong.
If we proceeded with the track, stage one, that fits within the community fund that this was about, walkways or walking tracks. So no, I don't believe the money would need to be returned. If we were going to rehabilitate the site, as is the case, then I suspect the money would need to be returned, yes.
And if the motion was not passed, does that mean the money would have to be returned, or the matter put off to cause trouble later on if it ever rose its head, as it might?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question then?
Yes.
If this motion was not passed, where does that leave the Buckland walking trail? Because it's already been voted down with your abstention, but now you're suggesting that maybe if this motion doesn't pass, we don't have a decision in relation to the Buckland walking trail, effectively.
That'd be true. At the moment, we don't have a decision about it.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that would be a good outcome for several reasons. One is the obvious community interest and division on this matter, the fact that the site would remain unprotected or unrehabilitated, and at some point in time, a decision needs to be made one way or the other. I don't think just leaving things as is an option, and that's why I obviously didn't include that in the report.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm considering all the comments around the table with this, and I may need to ask Councillor Arnold's help and advice on this. Am I able to foreshadow a foreshadowed motion?
No.
If I may, through you to Councillor Arnold, I'm just...
How about
I
putting
am
it and then we look at it?
I'm actually really quite concerned that this foreshadowed motion that Councillor Churchill and has put up could be lost, and then we're without a decision for the community of Buckland with regards to the walking trail, stage one.
That's true, if it was lost.
I know you can have, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I know you can have more than You can only have 2 amendments to a motion, but I don't know whether there's a limit on
I've been
foreshadow
looking at
motions.
the question of foreshadow motions, I can't find it. And I can't remember what the general common law is about this issue of foreshadowed motion of a foreshadowed motion. But Councillor Woods, how about putting it as best you can, then we'll look at it.
If,
Could you type it up, please?
yes, I
Jasmine?
will speak slowly because I've got to think slowly.
That's all right, take it slowly.
But, that, I'll move a foreshadowed motion that's, 7.4 Buckland Walking Trail, item 7.4.
Write it out if you have.
No, no, it's all right. Be deferred, I'll watch it.
So that's it, that's the way of putting it.
To the January or February, no later than February meeting. Ordinary meeting of council, sorry Jasmine, I am mucking you up.
No, that's all right, I understand it. How about saying to the February meeting of council, because January, my recollection is the 19th, and it's very early when we come back
So
in.
February is possibly preferred.
Yep.
I'm mindful of nothing being done and continual erosion either way.
But that's speaking to the motion, that's not the motion. So you move that, if this motion, the foreshadowed motion is lost, you move that the question of the Buckland walking trail be deferred to an ordinary meeting of council in February 2021.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. For the purpose of gaining
You don't have to put in the
more
motion, I don't think.
information.
I don't
More
think you have to put it in the motion.
Well, I think we do.
I think
Do you?
through you,
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I think the committee will want to know.
Oh, I suppose
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So through you, Mr. Mayor, just my question, Councillor Woods, is, oh, sorry, I should let you finish then in what you're going to, I'm just wondering what's going to be different in February as to December?
Nothing, but there's to me, I think there needs to be more, I'm concerned that there's the possibility that today that we will not make a decision. There will be not a decision made.
Deputy Mayor Woods, can I suggest that it's not my province, but to say, for purposes of gaining more information and reconsidering the matter, which is putting it off, if it's passed.
And
Yeah. So, because then we'd have to consider something and get some sort of
Yeah.
resolution.
yes,
You happy with that? And reconsidering the matter?
yep.
Now, that's a foreshadowed motion. Do you have a seconder for that foreshadowed
No,
motion?
don't need to do that
Don't you?
until after
Okay.
after we vote on the next,
All right.
on
okay.
Councillor Churchill's
Councillor Churchill wishes to say something?
It's just purely a question on the process. Is this within correct procedure?
Well, I have looked at the meeting procedure regulations and I can't see that it's specifically dealt with. Councillor Robinson, do you wish to say something?
Only that, I just feel as though this matter was first touted in 2015, and I just think it'd be preferable for us to make a decision now. I don't think putting it off to January, February, July or anything's going to make any difference whatsoever to the way the Buckland community will feel if we don't make a decision today.
Any other comment or discussion?
Well,
Yes.
If I may, Mayor, just if it's right for me to close on my motion, that's
Please
on the
close.
books, I would just like to make or to support the comments that Councillor Robinson has made, especially, and I didn't really want to speak about this because I didn't want to make an issue of it, because the split in the community over this issue has been enormous. But in all fairness, that survey that was sent out did not comply with any of our policies or with the Act as I understand it in any way, shape or form. And to me it was just another part of a flawed process.
Councillor Churchill, I'm going to stop you. That was an argument against the motion that has been lost. It's been lost. I don't really think that it's appropriate to deal one way or another with your foreshadowed motion. I don't think it's relevant to that.
Fine.
I'm going to put the foreshadowed motion. All those in favour raise their hand. All those against raise their hand. I'm doing a very good job of sitting on the fence and abstaining. And I know that
So that means,
Councillor Robinson's fretting a bit. I've thought about this a lot, and
Exactly the same as the last one. Same votes.
so that I declare that the foreshadowed motion is lost. And those voting for the foreshadowed motion were Councillor Churchill and Councillor Robinson. Am I going too fast? Please stop me. And those voting against the foreshadowed motion were Councillor Arnold and Deputy Mayor Woods, with the Mayor abstaining, which means that the motion is lost. Now, we have before us a further foreshadowed motion. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor
For the
Arnold.
purposes of discussion, yes.
Do you wish to speak any further to the motion? Councillor Deputy Mayor Woods?
no, I think I've said enough. Actually, yes. You know, most communities, all communities within our municipal area have walking trails. Buckland doesn't. We've had numerous complaints over the years from ratepayers around the place that they have to walk on the road. Why should Buckland residents have to walk on the road to have some, their daily exercise? And also, you know, there is the possibility that that trail will be used by visitors as well, and that it has, again, I acknowledge the fact that it has caused enormous angst within the community.
Councillor Woods, I'm going to pull you up.
Okay.
It's not relevant. This is not whether, well, it's a matter of judgment, and I'm exercising my judgment.
So,
And
am I
the
stopping?
reason you're stopping, the reason why it's not relevant is because this motion is not for or against a walking trail. It's a motion for reconsideration in February. Now,
I'll finish.
it might be technical, but we'll get into an argument about whether we should or shouldn't have a walking trail. What this motion would do, if it passes, is put off the thing further, much no doubt to the distress of some and pleasure of others. Anyone else wish to speak on the motion one way or another? Councillor Churchill.
I just want to say that I am not sure about this as a process. I feel uncomfortable because I'm not sure that this is correct process. I support the principle in light of the fact that we haven't been able to reach a resolution. I support that, but I do question, and I'm not questioning whether it's right or wrong. I'm really asking whether it's right or wrong to do this. I'm not sure where we go to if this is not proper procedure after we've done it.
Well, I've ruled on it. I can't see anything in the meeting procedure regulations specifically dealing with it. I don't have Renton on meeting procedure with me, and as a consequence, I've accepted the motion, the foreshadowed motion, and we will have to put up with it.
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yes, please, General Manager. You
There
tell
is
me what
nothing,
page.
there's nothing in the motions around foreshadowing. What we're talking about here is foreshadowing of a foreshadowed motion. I'm happy, if council wants to continue with the next item to get some advice out of the room.
I think that would be preferred.
Well, my view is I've ruled on it, and we're caught with it. If you want to overturn me at the next meeting, you can.
If I,
There,
I think the General Manager's suggestion is a good one in that around the table here we're not sure. And I think to get some advice, some definitive advice might save us some angst at the next meeting or in the future.
well, General Manager, if you wish to get definitive advice, it'd surprise me if you could get it over a 10-minute phone call. But please try.
I will do that. Thank you, Mr Mayor. And
Adjourning the meeting to do that?
No, not at the moment. We'll go on to, as General Manager
Well,
suggests,
we're-
the next
well,
item, unless there's a reason not.
through you, Mr Mayor, sorry, no, I think it'd be appropriate to adjourn the meeting. just
All right,
while-
if that's the case, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Yep. I'll be back.
so it's adjourned, Jasmine, at 6 minutes past 3. I'm going to grab a cup of tea. Does anyone else?
Now, we're still on YouTube. You can
Yes.
stop YouTube, it's appropriate.
Yeah.
We'll recommence shortly.
Remind me
Can
to
you
turn
just
my
stop and
speaker.
start it? Is there any way you can just pause it? Once you stop it, is it recorded? Is it then recorded? Is like how